Namaskar everybody and welcome to the Gita Satsang. Let us begin with a prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। Offers obeisances to the acharyas. Yo nityamachyutapadaambujayugmarugma vyamohatastaditarani trinaya mene asmadguror bhagavatosya dayaikasindho ramanujasya charanau sharanam prapadye ramanujadaya patram jnana vairagyabhushanam srimadvenkatanathaaryam Vande Vedanta Deshikam. So, let us now proceed to the 8th shloka of the 8th chapter. Previously, we had stopped at the 7th shloka, where Krishna has been telling Arjuna about how if somebody thinks of him, the Lord, at the time of death, then that is exactly the Lord's status, the Lord's lotus feet is what that person will attain based on their papa and punya account. If they think of something, whatever somebody thinks of at the time of death, that is what the person will become. Like that he had been telling. So now he continues further, and then in this today's shlokas that we are going to see, shloka 8, 9 and 10, Krishna is going to tell Arjuna about how the Aishwaryarthi should be meditating on the Lord. Now, if you remember, we talked about these three categories of devotees, the Aishwaryarthi, the Kaivalyarthi, and the Bhagavallabharthi. So right now he is telling the Aishwaryarthi is the one who desires wealth. But what he should think of as wealth? He should think the Lord only as wealth for him. So if he thinks with such an attitude, then what should be his step? What should he do? How can he attain the Lord? Like that. So in the 8th shloka, Krishna is saying, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. So he's saying, constantly meditating with a mind which is made steady by habitual practice, without thinking of anything else, one reaches the divine supreme being, O Partha. So Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Partha here, and he's telling him how somebody who is an Aishwaryarthi can reach the divine Lord. So here he says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena. So here one has to do abhyasa, that is continuously, habitually we have to practice. What do we have to practice? We have to train the mind to focus steadily on the Lord at all times. Now, it is very difficult to do this in reality because our mind by nature jumps from here to there. And because we have so many vasanas from so many previous janmas and even the impressions which are formed in this janma when we have been living our lives, because of that, the natural tendency for the mind is to run here and there. So that is why it is very difficult for us to focus on the Lord. Now, sometimes we will say that we have all other everyday duties to be done. How can we? Is it possible for us to all the time think about the Lord? If we really try, we should make it a practice to do this. Like you may be doing your other activities, normal daily life routines will be going on. But even in the middle of that, at least, we should try. Even if we can't do it all the time, at least we should make an attempt to try and keep remembering the Lord from time to time. And if there is somebody who can train their mind and do this abhyasa, they make it a practice that all the time their mind is fixed on the Lord, then with that one pointed attention, if they are able to contemplate on the Lord, then it will be very beneficial for this person. They will attain me. That is what the Lord is saying. They will attain the Supreme Being. So, what exactly is that benefit which we get if we are able to focus on the Lord constantly? That is what the Lord explains in the next two shlokas. So, here these are like following one after the other. So, we will take them up together today. So, here he says, Kavim Puranam Anushasitar Mano Anoraniyan Samanusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat Prayanakale Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणम् आवेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषं मुपैति दिव्यम्. So what he's saying here is that somebody who meditates upon the Lord. Which Lord? The Lord who is omniscient, the one who is the primeval one. He is the Adi. He is the one who was initially and the ancient one who is always there. The one who is the ruler of all and the one who is the creator of all. The one who is more subtle than an atom, the one whose nature is inconceivable, the one who is as refulgent or effulgent as the sun, and the one who is beyond tamas. So if we think of the Lord as being all this, when at the time of death, how? With a mind unwavering by the power of yoga and having the quality of devotion. At doing all this, if the person is able to focus the prana shakti, the vital force, in the space between their eyebrows, then that person reaches that same divine supreme being on whom they are focusing. So let us take this up little by little. Now, what is the normal sequence of events? Here in this shloka, they have told first the qualities of the Lord on which we have to focus, and then what happens to the person who is able to do that and how they should be doing that. So here let us see it in a little simpler manner. Now suppose there is a person who has constantly engaged and been involved with karma yoga. And we know what is karma yoga. Karma yoga is doing all your actions, constantly remembering that it is an offering to God that you are doing, that you are not doing it for your own benefit. You are not doing it with expectation of some phala out of it, but rather you are doing the activity as a madhyam, as a medium whom the Lord is using, and your whole purpose in doing that action is to please the Lord. So if there is a person who practices karma yoga like this, and at the same time they also have lot of bhakti, such a person's mind gets purified. What do we mean by saying the mind gets purified? That all the vasanas which are there in that mind, they slowly start getting removed. All the When somebody does in this way, then slowly their account of papa, punya, everything also gets cleared up. So such a person becomes mentally purified. Now, because the vasanas are no longer influencing such a person, their attachment to pleasures through the senses will also start reducing. Now, the minute this happens and attachment to the outside world starts to reduce, what happens to the state of their mind? Already it has been purified. So the sattva guna in it has become more. The rajotamo gunas have decreased. So as a natural result of all these cleansing that has happened, the mind will become steady. Right now, what is our state? That we don't have a steady mind. Our mind is constantly jumping from one thing to the other. And why is that happening? Because our rajotamo guna is high. Because we have so many vasanas which are influencing us. But suppose we undergo mental purification, then our mind also becomes steady. Now, such a person who has attained a steady mind, and why that steady mind has come? Because they have constantly practiced karma yoga and done bhakti to the Lord. So, if somebody has such a steady mind, then at the time of their death, if they manage to focus their prana shakti, to focus their attention, to focus their vital energy on the space between the eyebrows, which is the location of the Agnya chakra. I think you must have heard about these chakras which are there, the Mooladhara chakra, the Manipura chakra, Swadhisthana chakra, like this. So the chakra which is present at the space between our eyebrows, in the Bhrumatya, that is called as the Agnya chakra. So suppose somebody who has a steady mind focuses their prana on that Agnya chakra at the time when they are going to die, at the time of death. And along with that, they contemplate on the Lord who is having all these particular qualities. Which Lord? Here the description is given. The Lord who is Kavi. Kavi means he is the one who is Sarvagnya, the one who knows the past, the present, and the future, the omniscient Lord. The Lord who is called Puranam. That means he is the ancient or the primeval one. He is the one who has always been in existence. He will always be there. Then the one who is the ruler of this entire universe. And what are the qualities that this Lord has? First, he is Anoraniyan. That means he is the smallest of the small. He is the most subtle among all the subtle things in this universe. Then he is Dhataram. He is the one who has created this entire universe. What is his form? He has an unimaginable form, Achintya Rupam, one that we cannot think about, the one that we cannot even imagine with our mind. And most importantly, his form is such we cannot imagine it. And even if we had to try to imagine, it is having the brilliance of 1,000 suns beyond the Mula Prakriti. So Aditya Varnam, Aditya refers to the sun. So Aditya Varnam means it has the same brilliance, the same tejas, like 1,000 suns who have risen together. That much of brilliance is there in the form of the Lord. And he is beyond tamas. Tamas refers to the Mula Prakriti here. So he is tamasa parastat. He is beyond the Mula Prakriti. So this is the nature of the Lord. Now, right now we are describing these things at this point of time. But what is the shloka telling? That if there is somebody who has done karma yoga and bhakti yoga, because of which they have attained a steady mind, with that steady mind, if they focus their prana on the Agnya chakra at the time of their death, and they think of the Lord with all these qualities, that the Lord is omniscient, the Lord is the ancient one, he is the ruler of this universe, he is the creator, he is the most subtle of all things, he has an unimaginably brilliant form, and he is beyond this prakriti. All these things, if somebody does at the time of death, then that person attains the Lord. And what do we mean by attains the Lord? That person gets a status which is similar to the Lord in terms of the power and the glory. Here in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, this is explained to mean that we will get all the qualities of the Lord except two. The one is that we cannot become creator of the universe. Whatever happens, we will never become creator of the universe. The second thing is we will not become Shriyapati. We will not become the Lord of Shri. Except these two things, everything else which the Lord has, we will get if we are able to do all these things at the time of the death. Now, it is told in a easy way like this, and it seems to us that, okay, if we manage to do this, we will get this kind of a mukti. We will get to attain the status of the Lord. But is it really so easy to do this? We have to understand that it is really very, very difficult, because to get that purification of our mind, to have that steady mind, and then to be able to do all these things, and at the time of death to not get affected by whatever processes are happening in the physical body, is very, very difficult. We need the special grace of the Lord to be able to do that. And if at all we want to hope to remember the Lord and think of his qualities at the time of death, we have to make sure that we have done this remembering of the Lord and his qualities throughout our life. when we have been living, if we have done all these things, then at the time of death, we will be able to do that. Now, we know how, even if we make a great effort, it is very difficult for us to keep our mind focused on the Lord during our normal day. We keep trying to remember, but we keep forgetting also. So, does it mean that we are doomed? Definitely not. The Lord understands how difficult it is for us to be in this samsara and still to try and remember Him. It is always told that if we take one step towards the Lord, He will take the remaining 9 steps and come and hold us. But we need to take that one step. So, he will make sure, if we start doing little, he will make sure that he gives us more. He will create in us the ability to focus more. So the only way to get that grace of the Lord is to try to the maximum of our capacity to do what we can, and then he will make sure that we get those things. If we do this throughout our life, then at the time of death, there is a chance, there is a likelihood that we will be able to do all this what is being told. So, to understand this, that how it is so difficult in samsara to focus on the Lord, there is a very popular story that is often told. It is about Narada. Now, we know Narada is always chanting the name of the Lord. He goes around, he's Triloka Sanchari, he goes here and there, wherever he goes, he's constantly singing Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. No wonder then, at some point of time, one fine day, Narada thinks about this. He says, oh, I'm always singing the glories of the Lord. I'm always chanting the Lord's name. So, can there be anybody who is a greater devotee than me? Definitely, I am the best devotee, he thinks. Now, Vishnu comes to know, the Lord Narayana comes to know that this is what is the thought in Narada's head. And the Lord never likes anybody to have any kind of ego or to feel superior for their bhakti or for anything in this world. For anything in this world, He doesn't want us to feel ego. Then definitely to think that we are the greatest bhakta, that is also an ahankara. So the Lord will not want to allow that person to continue in that mode. So what He decides is, okay, I will teach him a lesson. I will make him realize that how there are others also who are great bhaktas. So Narada, when he reached the Lord, he expressed this feeling. He said that I'm always singing your glories. Can there be any greater bhakta than me? So the Lord says, when you are thinking like that, definitely no. There is one farmer who is living on Bhumi. He is my greatest bhakta. You go and see, meet that person, and you will come to know why I have said that he is the best bhakta. Like that, the Lord tells and sends Narada. Now Narada went there and he just watched from far what that farmer was doing. That farmer was very busy with his farming activity. Only thing he was doing was, in the morning, as soon as he woke up and started out to do his work, before that, at one point of time, he prayed to the Lord and he took the Lord's name and he said, please bless me. Let all my activities go on well and thank you for your grace. He said like that in the morning. Then once he went off to the field and he was busy with all his work, he would come back late in the evening, tired, and then he would again wash himself and clean up. And once more, he would have his food and everything. And at night, just before going to bed, he would again remember the Lord and say, thank you for everything that happened to me today. Thank you for being with me. And he would go to sleep. So only 2 times in a day that farmer was thinking of the Lord. So, seeing this, Narada said, how is it possible? How can this person be such a great bhakta? Lord must have made some mistake. So, he went back to Narayana and he said that, what is this? That man is very busy in his own life and he is only remembering you once in the morning and once at night. So, how can you say that he is a big bhakta? Whereas I am on the other hand, always thinking of you, I am always saying your name. So Lord says, okay, I will tell you why I am saying that he is a great bhakta. But before that, I have a task for you. So he points out a hill on Bhuloka to Narada. And he says, take a pot filled with oil up to the brim. And you have to walk around that hill do a pradakshina for that hill and come back to me. But be careful that not one drop of oil should spill anywhere on the way. So you do that, complete the task, and come back to me. So Narada goes there and he starts walking around the hill. He is very careful now because Vishnu has told not one drop of oil should pour. So he is very, very careful and it's full to the brim. So he has to walk very slowly and carefully. So he completes the task somehow and he's totally focused on his job and he comes back. When he comes back, he says, yes, I have successfully completed the task. The Lord says, okay, you forget about that oil and pot and all that. Now tell me, how many times did you remember me when you were doing all that? Then Narada realizes he had been so focused on the task that not once did he think about the Lord. Neither did he pray to the Lord at the beginning of the task, nor did he feel gratitude at the end of the thing that Lord had got it done through him. And throughout the process, though, definitely he never thought about the Lord. He didn't even remember to say Narayana even once. What does this indicate? That all the time when his life was convenient, he was saying the Lord's name, yes. But if there is somebody who is in samsara, then when they are in samsara, they are constantly lost in thoughts of that samsara. Just like Narada was lost in thought of the pot and not letting the oil spill from the pot. Like that, the person who is caught up in this world, a Baddha Atma, a Jivatma who is stuck up in the samsara, because he is caught up, enmeshed in the samsara, it is like Narada's state with the pot on his head, that he had to be so careful not to drop a single, not to spill even a single drop of oil. Like that, this person in samsara is juggling so many tasks and doing so many things together that it is very difficult to get to the stage of being able to focus on the Lord. But despite all those responsibilities, the Lord told Narada that farmer was at least remembering to pray to me and to thank me twice a day. That itself is a very great achievement. That is the reason why I said he is such a great devotee of mine. So, what we need to understand, of course, these stories, now we must not take them in the wrong way. Narada was no doubt a great bhakta. He is considered one among the, foremost among the bhaktas. He's under the category of Bhakta Shiromani. So, he is the very important bhakta. Why does the Lord have such leelas? Because we should understand to teach us this lesson that it is easy for even somebody of the caliber of Narada to lose their focus at times. So, to show us that this is a possibility and this is the kind of ego we should not have. So, the Lord uses his devotees to play out these leelas. So, let us not think that, oh, Narada also was caught up with Ahankara, then what is the difference between him and us? Not that way. He is playing a role. This is a leela of the Lord, where the Lord is using Narada to teach us this lesson. So we must understand that like this, if we are caught up in our worldly activities, no doubt it is very difficult to focus on the Lord. But if we make even a little effort from our side, the very basic minimum that we can do, if we try to do that, the Lord is pleased and He understands that, He acknowledges that. And that is why we will find that if we make sincere efforts to go towards the Lord, somewhere we will find that He starts giving us more opportunities to turn towards Him. Now, those things which He is giving us as opportunities to turn towards Him, we need not assume that they will be things which are good for us. Because generally, when good happens to us, we don't turn towards the Lord. It is only when we have setbacks that we turn towards the Lord. So, if you find, for instance, that you are starting to do bhakti, and then you find that there seem to be, they seem to be difficulties coming up in your life, or you are facing some obstacles, then what is that obstacle or difficulty? It is yet another opportunity that the Lord is giving you to turn towards Him. So, if we learn to take it with that spirit, then we will learn to see the Lord's hand in everything that is happening in our life. And the more we try to focus on the Lord, the more we will be practiced. We will have abhyasa of constantly trying to contemplate on the Lord. And the more we do this throughout our living period, the more likely it is that at the end of our life, when we have to depart, we will be able to remember the Lord at that point of time. Now, seeing our efforts, the Lord will definitely grace us with that ability. That is what we have to remember. So, today we have talked about how it is important to constantly try and contemplate on the Lord. And even if we are caught up with other activities in this world, and because our Rajotama Guna is high, we are getting lost in this samsara, yet we must make sincere efforts to remember the Lord at all times. And He will grace us and bless us to be able to do that. So let us pray that understanding this and this story helps us to renew, to refresh our efforts, and to put more sincerity in our efforts to turn towards the Lord. So, with that, we have come to the end of our topic for today. In the next satsang, we will go on, continue further. The Lord is going to tell how should be what should be the actions done by the Kaivalyarthi. Today, whatever we said is for the Aishwaryarthi. That although the Aishwaryarthi is the person who desires wealth, what is the real wealth for him? It should be attaining the Lord. Even to say that you want wealth which is not going to be diminished, who is the source of that Shri, of that wealth? It is the Lord Himself. So, this is how the Aishwaryarthi should contemplate. Next, Krishna will tell how the Kaivalyarthi should contemplate, and we will see that in the next satsang. So, let us stop here for today by offering gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru, who have inspired us to start and join this satsang. Let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you, Zarnaji. We will stop here for today. Let us continue in the next satsang. Namaskar.